Welcome, friends, to this installment of Take5, and I thought what I'd share with you today is just some thoughts I had about an article that I read yesterday that was actually written about last March when COVID was just becoming a household word in the United States. And in the article, it's called Christians Have Been Handling Epidemics for 2,000 Years. And the author writes a lot about how Christians dealt with the plagues in the Roman Empire and in times since then. And he cites historians who talk about how in the Antonine Plague, which wiped out about a quarter of the Roman Empire in the 2nd century, how Christians, the Christian faith grew and grew really because people saw Christians just their self-sacrifice and the way they were maintaining a Christian community with one another as well. And then in the 3rd century, a more well-known plague that we think now is something like what Ebola is, but at the time it was known as the plague of Cyprian, after Bishop Cyprian, who apparently had very colorful descriptions of the illness in his sermons. I guess that's how you know, by the way, if you're a preacher, when you've made it, when they name a plague after you. But likewise, this was a time when the church just thrived and grew as people saw Christians caring for the sick, and not only their own sick, but their unbelieving neighbors as well. And also noted how Christians offered a very different spiritual explanation than the pagan religions of the day, which basically said that this plague was the result of these capricious and angry gods. And the Christians said, no. This has come because we're in a fallen world, and we've rebelled against a good God who loves us and showed it by sending Jesus. And they didn't even have the canon of the New Testament then, but that sure sounds a lot like Romans chapter 8. Well, certainly COVID-19 has not been as deadly as some of those ancient plagues, but nonetheless, a lot of people have died. Others have contracted illnesses that have lasting effects. There have been people that have lost their jobs, and others have seen their hours and income significantly reduced. And you think of some of the losses that aren't life-threatening, people having vacations canceled and sports seasons canceled and no family gatherings. Things like this aren't going to kill anyone, but nonetheless they certainly cause the dial and the joy meter to go down a bit. And you think of some of the psychological impact of all this. I mean, if you struggled with anxiety before COVID, well, it's not any better now, is it? It's probably experienced anxiety on steroids in this season. And also, while having to to stay at home more often has maybe been a good thing for people who were not at home with their families enough beforehand, for folks who live alone, it's been an especially lonely time. Well, in the past, Christians' response to COVID was really guided in large part by some of the more well-known teachings of Jesus, like love your neighbor as yourself, and greater love hath no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. What might this look like in our day as we're walking through this current pandemic? Well, and for some, a number of people actually here in our church, part of it's meant making masks for people in our community. For others of you, you've gone out, you've done grocery shopping for homebound neighbors, or you've had regular phone check-ins with folks. A couple of you have given to me grocery gift cards to give away to people who really need them. And then here's one very simple but profound one that someone shared with me just a couple of days ago. He said that a few months back he made a very conscious decision to say, I'm not going to make fun of people who I think are way more upset about this than they should be. Now, pardon me, I heard that. I said, well, you shouldn't make fun of people anyway, which is true. But I had to commend him, on recognizing, how easy it is to sort of jump in and make fun of people who respond to things differently than we do. And also to recognize that, this is not very Christ-like, and especially in this season where people are more on edge. Boy, folks need a special measure of Jesus-like love and grace from us. And also you think about beyond the practical physical needs, people need hope. and hope not just for a vaccine, or hope not just that, to know the answer to when this is going to be over, or why this is happening. And I say that as somebody I think was born asking why about everything, especially about some of the harder things that come our way. I guess I've, over the years, come to realize, though, that there are a lot of things that I may never know the answer, why to them. And also that while this COVID situation is not going to last forever, that as long as it does last, I'm just going to have to patiently bear with the kinds of changes and losses that it brings. But friends, in the wake of all this, my hope in this COVID season is really in the fact that God is real, God is good, and He's not going to abandon us. And that hope, it comes from God Himself. It also comes from just years of building trust day in and day out. And so I just want to encourage you to be in these days building that kind of a trust day in, day out. You'll find it's not just a blessing to you as you walk through this season, but also it'll be part of how God uses you to be of great blessing to people around you who are so desperate for hope. Well, thanks, friends, and God bless you real well this week.